Howdy, welcome to the Breakaway Podcast. The following message is an interview with a representative from our Shalom partner organization, Voice of the Martyrs. Some of the content may be disturbing to younger listeners. For more information, please visit breakawayministries.org. Thanks for listening.
Getting into tonight and what we're doing, welcome to Breakaway. This is our third week in Shalom. We get 4 weeks. Yeah, come on. So we get 4 weeks total. We're in week 3 of Shalom. And if you're new with us tonight, and if you're stepping in and looking at your neighbor going, I don't know what Shalom is, I thought this was Breakaway. It is Breakaway, Shalom version of Breakaway. Shalom for us, shalom for everybody, is the Hebrew word is peace. And so the reason we started this whole project, the reason we began it years ago, was we do some really cool things that we believe the Lord has called us to here in College Station on Tuesday nights, when we come together and we worship and we dive into Scripture and we unpack that and ask the Lord what He has for us. And so that happens here in College Station, but we started looking outside of College Station and going, God, where are you on the move? Where is it that you want us to partner with and jump along with people who are being the hands and feet of you all over the globe? And so what we did is we looked at areas that there is no shalom, there is no peace, areas of chaos, and we wanted to partner with organizations that are bringing peace to certain areas of our globe. And so when we looked in the fall, our staff took a retreat, and when we looked at Shalom or the project and said, okay, what are we going to do this semester? It wasn't really hard when you go into any kind of news, any kind of Twitter feed with CNN or anything to look and say, okay, where is their chaos? It's in the Middle East. And so when we saw that and we started looking at what's happening over there, we thought, let's find some organizations that are doing that well. And so we landed on 2 different organizations. We landed on Voice of the Martyrs is one of the one of the organizations, and then we also landed on an organization called Elam. Both of those are incredible organizations, and we're talking specifically about the area of Iraq, Syria, Nigeria, Iran. We're looking in that section of the world. And so tonight, we're coming in and we're actually getting the opportunity to hear from someone who is from that organization. So we wanted to put in front of you a representative from the organization, someone that we can sit and talk to and say, tell us what's happening over there, who's been there, and who is on the ground over there doing the work. And so we're pumped tonight. Are you guys, is that cool? Like, can we bring some? Okay. So tonight, we're going to get to hear from Dr. Jason Peters. Jason is married to Kimberly, who is here with us tonight as well. They have 5 children. That's right, 5. We have 1, and we're doing okay. Jordan's doing great. But they drove down from Oklahoma, where Voice of the Martyrs is based out of and where they live. And 2 of their kids, actually, Wes and Brittany, today toured the campus. So they're in high school, yeah? So we might get some Aggies out of the deal. I don't know. I think that if y'all whooped a little louder, they'd probably come. But but Jason has traveled to 37 different countries working with persecuted Christians. His story is crazy. I love getting to have lunch with him and getting to know him. And so I think it would be really cool for us to give him a huge Aggie welcome and for coming to College Station, coming to Breakaway, bringing his family, and opening up his life to us tonight. So would y'all welcome to the stage Dr. Jason Peters. Man. Welcome.
Thank you.
Well, welcome to your first Breakaway, right?
Thanks. Yeah, this is great.
This is new for you.
Can I give a shout out to one of my friends here?
Yeah.
Okay, there's a cadet, Nathan Agner, and he said I should say howdy. So, howdy. Howdy. All right, I like it.
That's
good.
That's what we do.
That's what we do.
In Aggie land. Yeah, man. Well, we're excited that you're here tonight with us. Something that I didn't mention that I do want to mention is you landed 4 days or 5 days ago?
Yeah, Thursday night. Yeah,
Thursday night,
4 or
got
5
back
days.
from Iraq, which was anybody else in Iraq a couple of days ago? No?
No.
Okay, so we have some things to learn from you.
Definitely.
I'm excited that you're here to talk to us about it, but let's just start off with the basics and tell us about Voice of the Martyrs.
Okay.
How did it even get started? Why did y'all begin?
Yeah.
Go.
Well, our founder, Richard Wurmbrand, you may have heard of him. He wrote this book called Tortured for Christ, and he was a Romanian pastor. And it was really interesting because he was, when the communists took over Romania, they gathered all the Christian leaders, and they're like, hey, we're going to tell you why communism is a good idea. So they got all these people together, and Richard and his wife Sabina are sitting in the crowd. There were 4,000 people there. And they started talking all this nonsense about communism. And so Sabina literally elbowed Richard and was like, you need to go wipe the shame off of Jesus' face. And he was like, that was a strong woman, by the way. You know what I mean? She like, get up there, wipe the shame off. And he said, if I do, you'll lose your husband. And she said, I don't need a coward for a husband. And so he was like, all right, I guess I'll get up there. And he did. So he stood up there. He ended up spending 17 years in a communist prison. It's a crazy story.
Wow.
But when he came back, he was like, he wanted to write about his story, and so he began to tell people in America. He actually got ransomed by some Norwegians. They paid 10 grand to get him out of Romania, and he started telling the story, and that's how we started. So now we're doing, last year we literally reached over 4 million people with help. And that's like tangible help. We don't count like broadcast numbers or, anything like that. That's like they tangibly receive something from their brothers and sisters in America. And so that's what we're doing around the world. We really do 3 things. It's very simple. Persecution response, which is clear. When somebody gets attacked, we try to help them out. And secondly, we're doing what we call frontline ministry, which is where we're kind of coming behind the indigenous church because they're the ones that are doing the ministry. I love that about Breakaway. You guys aren't like trying to be a church. Right. You're trying to connect with the church. And so that's what we do overseas. We go and we connect with the church and we like support them. We stand behind them. You can picture us like kind of propping them up with resources, training, that kind of stuff. And then thirdly, we believe every believer around the world should have a Bible. So we try to get Bibles into crazy places. So yes, we do smuggle. Yes, we do get Bibles where Bibles aren't supposed to be because in some of these countries, the Bible is literally in prison. It's like the Bible's behind chains or in chains behind bars. And so we try to get the Bible out and give it to every believer.
So how long have you been with Voice of the Martyrs?
4 years.
4 years now? It's amazing. I think that's cool for all of us to hear, especially for a lot of people in college that are questioning what the Lord would have for him and trying to find it. I think that's cool to hear how he's navigating your path the whole way. I think that's really cool in your story. One thing that we're talking about this organization that is working with those that are being persecuted, and you look in Scripture, and I go back to Saul, who was then Paul, and who we've seen persecution throughout Scripture and throughout the history of the world. But maybe you could give us a little bit. And if you turn on any news, like I was saying a minute ago, you see ISIS everywhere, you see Boko Haram. There's so much that is happening right now. Maybe you could talk to us a little bit about why is that happening so rampant right now, and the persecution that's going on in this moment around the globe.
Yeah, it's hard to measure the scope of persecution. I'm not sure if it's increased that much or if we just know more about it.
Yeah.
The globalization and the 24-hour news cycle, we just know what's going on now more than we used to.
Yeah.
And so it's just kind of in our face all the time that the persecution is happening. We shouldn't be surprised. I mean, Jesus said in John 15 and verse 20, he said, remember, if they persecuted me, they're going to persecute you. So we shouldn't be surprised because we all know how his earthly life ended. I mean, he suffered persecution, and if we're followers of Jesus, we're going to suffer persecution. But our era, I think, is different because it's just more prominent. Like you said, you turn on the news, you're seeing stories. I mean, just a week ago, 220 Christians were kidnapped in Syria. And I mean, that doesn't happen every day, but 220 Christians. And I'll talk about that in just a minute. But so, I mean, it's just there. It's more present. We're becoming aware of it. And by the way, check this out. ISIS, social media is part of their strategy, obviously. I was in Jordan 2 weeks ago, and that was just a couple weeks after their pilot was burned alive in a cage. And the people are outraged, obviously. I mean, that's their pilot who's being burned to death. And that's exactly what ISIS wanted. You know what I mean? They got the response that they wanted. And so I think with the emphasis on social media and telling that story, we're just more aware of persecution. And it's happening, and it has been happening, but it's really come to the forefront recently.
Yeah, that makes sense, man. It's crazy some of the stories that you were telling. I mean, you were kind of hitting on some, but if you could tell us some stories personally, if you, a couple days ago, being in the Middle East, and some of the stories that you are talking to people there and meeting with people and meeting with churches and being the voice there. So could you kind of give us tell us some personal stories that you got to experience?
Yeah, I'd love to. And let me just say this, the urgency right now is that Muslims are coming to Christ because of ISIS, which is pretty wild. You know what I mean? Like they're watching sort of their team and they're saying like, this is not me. They recognize just how extreme it is and they just don't want to be a part of that. And so there's a real urgency right now for an openness to the gospel. And we're seeing that happen around the world, which is pretty cool. So let's take advantage of that. I mean, we need to maximize on that opportunity. But one of the ways that I've seen God at work recently is I was in Iraq just about a week ago. I was visiting with Christians living at abandoned warehouses. And these people have been evicted from their homes in Mosul or Karakesh, and they're living literally in wherever they can find a place. Their kids, they were showing me their kids are getting rashes from the water because there's just really poor water supply. They actually, at this one warehouse kind of refugee center I was at, they're taking water from the local gas station. They made their own little makeshift pipe, and the gas station owner said, yeah, you can have some of my water, but it's not good water at all. So they're just getting rashes and all kinds of stuff going on. These are people that have literally given up everything for their faith. I mean, by choosing to follow Jesus, it's just an exchange. You follow Jesus, you give up everything else. I mean, that's just how it works for them. It's very simple.
Yeah, I don't know that we can fully grasp that.
No, I really don't think we can. I mean, I met recently with this guy. His 15-year-old daughter was kidnapped and forced to marry a Muslim man. And I mean, I've met with several of these kidnapping victims. She's released now, thank God. He was able to kind of negotiate with the tribal leaders and get her released. But just to meet her and just to see that the only reason that happened was because she was a follower of Jesus. That's it. It's the only reason. I met with a Syrian family last week on Monday, actually. So 8 days ago, I was with the Syrian refugee family. And the day before, I mentioned the 220 Christians that were kidnapped. This guy's niece was one of them that they tried to kidnap in this little town called Tel Hermos. They came in, they rounded up all the Christians, they tried to take her. She resisted, and she was annoying enough to them that they just slit her throat and just left her on the street. And so I met with the guy the next day, and I mean, obviously he's just broken, by this whole thing. But he's a Christian, she was a Christian, and that's why it happens. Mm-hmm. That's it. It's just their Christian identity and their following of Jesus. So it's pretty incredible. Those guys were so scared. They refused to give interviews to me. They wouldn't do any video. They wouldn't even let me record their voices because they're just scared to death, which you can imagine. I mean, if that had just happened, they're freaking out. But it was interesting because why they're scared, I was trying to kind of dig into it a little bit. And the guy I was with, our partner, he was saying, you got to realize these guys, they grew up in a hardcore, the Syrian regime was bad enough with the government. Now the government's gone and ISIS is there. So it's gone from bad to worse. Mm. And now they're just scared to death. They don't want to, they're afraid that they're going to get tracked down if they do a video interview and going to get killed, which, could happen. I met on the street in Beirut with a former Syrian military officer, and I wanted to tell this story. This is pretty crazy. This guy was sent by the Syrian military abroad so that he could study. I know a lot of you guys have gone abroad to study, or you hope to. And he went abroad, and he became a Christian. He became a follower. He came to faith in Christ while he was studying abroad. So he came back, immediately suffered persecution from his family. They're like, dude, you're a Christian. Our son no longer exists. That kind of treatment. And so they rejected him. But it was interesting. I wanted to share one thing he said. He said they'd gone through all these trials, and he said they were beautiful trials. Which I'm like, that doesn't even make sense. What are you talking about, beautiful trials? But he said, Jesus was with me. It's exactly what Habila said on the video. Jesus is with these brothers and sisters in powerful ways that we can't experience, I don't think, unless we're there in that moment. But he said something else, too. He said that with ISIS right now, he said that when I was with the Syrian government, he said they would imprison me and they would abuse me, but they wouldn't kill me. There was something holding them back. But he said with ISIS, he said, any Christian is worth a bullet. Any Christian is worth a bullet. It's incredible, man. It's tough stuff.
That's crazy. You were telling me at lunch, I don't know if you are cool with sharing the story with the college student that you met.
Absolutely.
And what happened, just kind of, I think that was this past week, right?
Yes.
Met him?
And I've got a photo of him, actually, which will come up on the screen here in a minute. But I met this guy. He was a fourth-year engineering student at the University of Mosul in Iraq. And I wish I could show you the video. It's incredible. He literally says, they came into our area. They gave us like 3 choices. You can pay this jizya tax, which is this huge tax, or you can leave or convert to Islam, or we'll kill you. And he just said it so matter-of-factly, like, or we'll kill you. And it was just stunning. But he opted to leave, and so he literally left. I mean, think about this. You guys know how hard it is to study. We got any engineers in the house? Any engineering students? Yeah.
Just a few.
So you know how hard it is to study. He's in his 4th year. And he walked away from all of it because he wanted to follow Jesus. And he said, I'm not going to get it. Because I asked him, I was like, oh, so you can just like transfer to like Baghdad University or something? And he's like, no. The school has been radicalized. It's taken over. It's gone. It's just all gone.
So for him, his education is...
Yeah, I mean, it's all of that is just gone is what he says. But this was interesting. He said, we've lost everything, but we didn't lose our faith. And he said, and this was kind of funny, the way he said it was, he said, because Jesus deserves it. Jesus deserves it. It was just incredible. What a guy.
Man, it's crazy.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Again, I'm trying to like wrap my head around it today when you were talking about it, and just thinking for students here, like what would it look like if somebody said, hey, you choose to follow Jesus, or what does that look like to leave everything? I mean, and where do you go? And so, I mean, as you're talking about it, and we're trying to get our heads around their world, can you give us an idea of the perspective of when they are like leaving? So we have they either choose not to follow Jesus, or they leave. They go where? Like, where do they go? What are their needs? Like, what are these people? These massive groups of people, right? I mean, you talked about one.
Yeah, one city, they had 500 refugee families in their town. I mean, even College Station or Bryant, I mean, if you had 500 people to show up, or 500 families, that's kind of a lot. That don't have houses, don't have jobs, don't have schools. It's a lot. And I just want to say, one of our brothers there said something so profound. He said, these are not refugees. He was helping care for refugees. Mm-hmm. But he said, they're not refugees, there are relatives. He literally said, there are family members, there are relatives. And I just thought that totally shifted our thinking. It's like if your brother or sister was homeless, you wouldn't be like, well, I'll go ahead and give them like $10 to get them, a meal or something. You would take them in. You would let them live in your house for as long as they needed to. You would feed them, you would clothe them, whatever it took. And that's how the Christians in Erbil, for example, I was in Erbil, and it's right next to Mosul. It's 85 kilometers away. So to answer your question where they went, they just went wherever they could. Like if you're on the run, you just go where you can. So there are churches where they've set up tent cities in the church lawn, You know, imagine like, I saw some churches around the campus, outside the campus. I mean, imagine if there's just tents surrounding that church because there's space to put up a tent, and so that's where they're living. That's what's going on, so it's pretty crazy. They need food, they need shelter, which I know you guys are all in on, and helping them find shelter. They need heat. You know, when I was there was snow on the ground in Iraq, Lebanon, Jordan in the last couple weeks. It's cold, and it's just really tough. So I literally saw people huddling around, you know, a heater, trying to stay warm. It's really tough, and they need help.
Yeah, and you were saying earlier, they don't have anywhere to go. And Voice of the Martyrs is providing for their physical needs.
Yes.
I mean, and helping them and having heat and the things that we need to survive. But then, like, they don't have any. They can't get jobs. They're just They're just kind of there. Like, they get there and it's like, here we are, we've moved here now, and then what?
Yeah, it's tough, especially, you know, what really brought this home for me was the kids. We got any education majors in the house? I mean, imagine being a teacher, and check this out. Like, your kids get moved, you know, you're refugees, so there's this influx of children in these little towns, and there's literally no space in the school, obviously, because they built the education system for the people who live there, not for all these refugees that are flooding in. And so I met with some kids that literally are just out of school for months. And again, how do you recapture that? I mean, this academic year for them is just gone. I mean, they're just now going back to school. And, you know, by God's grace, we're able to help with that, which is cool. We're actually paying for some buses to transport them to a place where they found a school. It's cool. Far away from where they're living, but at least they can get over there. So yeah, there's no real, I mean, I wish I could tell you right now that, okay, well, the good news is in a couple months this is going to be better, but it's not. I mean, for these refugees in Iraq and in Lebanon and in Jordan, there's no end in sight right now. Obviously, God's at work through it all. And I want to tell you this, some of these people are so filled with joy. I mean, every human's going to have a different reaction. So some people are bitter and they're like hating the whole thing, obviously. But some of them are really grasping this eternal perspective that Jesus is worth it. And those are the people that I'm just inspired by. I mean, I'm humbled to meet them, you know, and honored to meet them because they're really living out their faith in ways that, like you said, it's hard for us to even imagine.
Yeah, totally. I mean, but you are seeing over there, you're seeing the gospel on the move. I mean, you're seeing families and people like that is bringing them hope.
Yeah, it is. And it's cool because beyond even their own personal hope, they're reaching out to others with the gospel. And I want to tell you the story. I was in Lebanon in this place called the Bekaa Valley, and it's very cold, snow on the ground, and there's this Muslim camp of refugees, because, by the way, ISIS is kind of they're like equal opportunities attackers. You know what I mean? They're attacking their own religion, you know, Christian, Yazidis, all these different groups. And so these Muslim, I literally spent the morning handing out firewood, these 25-kilo bags, like 55-pound bags of wood to Muslims. It was awesome. I mean, they were loading them up on like motorbikes, as you can see, you know, just carrying them on their shoulder. But what's great about that is that they know, the people that are coming to get that wood, they know it's coming from Christians. And it's not only coming from Christians, it's coming from Christians who are also suffering themselves. You know what I mean? They're all right there together trying to work on this and really reach out in the midst of the crisis. So it's a pretty compelling testimony for the gospel.
Man, that's incredible. Well, tell us a little bit. You mentioned that y'all work with churches, and something that you've said that I learned is, and I think this is critical for all of us. I think whenever we want to help, you kind of want to come in with force and, hey, here's what you need to do, and push our agenda on other people. But for you guys, what I love with Voice of the Martyrs is y'all are coming in and finding out the needs, and then meeting them. You're not coming in and pushing them into here's what we think you need. You're stepping in to meet the need. And you said you're doing that a lot through the local churches over there. Yes. So give us an idea of what the church is over there, your relationship with them. I know that you go and meet with them. That's why you go.
Yeah, absolutely.
So give us an idea of what that looks like.
Yeah, I would say that God is choosing to work through his church, his body. and he's doing it in amazing ways. Because imagine, one of the coolest stories in Iraq was, I went to an above-ground church. It was amazing that these, 100 people were worshiping boldly. I mean, they were singing as loudly as we were singing a few minutes ago, and they're only 30 miles away from ISIS. And I was sitting there, I was like, it would be really easy for somebody to come in here with a suicide bomb vest or something, and they don't care. They're just boldly worshiping because that's the church in action. And so it was pretty cool to think about that. And I guess the only thing I can say is that God's supernatural grace is manifest in this. Because, I mean, I don't know, have you ever thought about how you would handle persecution? I mean, I think about this because I'm like, I don't know how I would do if I was in Habila's spot.
Yeah.
If someone's holding a gun to my head saying, if you deny Christ, we'll let you live, but if you don't, we're going to kill you. But there's an encouraging scripture I want to share with you, because I don't think any of us can sit here. It'd be very arrogant for us to be like, oh, I could handle that.
Right.
I got that, no problem. I could do that. There's a scripture I wanted to share. It's Mark 13:9, and a few verses there I want to read. It says, you must be on your guard. You're going to be handed over to the local councils. You're going to be flogged in the synagogues. Jesus said, on account of me, you will stand before governors and kings as witnesses to them, and the gospel must first be preached to all nations. But check this out, verse 11. Whenever you're arrested and brought to trial, do not worry beforehand about what to say. Just say whatever is given you at the time, for it is not you speaking, but the Holy Spirit. That's what's happening right now.
So
These
good.
people, they didn't prepare for this, but God's grace through the Holy Spirit is giving them what they need right on time, just the right thing. And it's incredible to watch this. And one of the ways that we see this is we really show up with them and we sit down with the leaders and we say, okay, how can we serve you? We like to consider ourselves as the junior partner in the relationship. Even though we're the ones with the money, usually when there's a lot of money involved, people are like, oh, you're the funder, you're the senior partner. We're like, no. We're the junior partner. We're coming here. We want to learn from you. What would be most helpful? Have any of you ever received a care package that you really didn't appreciate? You're in college and people are like, hey, I'm going to send you some cookies. And you're like, I got plenty of cookies. I don't really need those.
I don't know. They may want more cookies. I don't know.
But we don't want to be like that. We don't want to take, our idea of what's helpful. Hey, listen here, this is what you need. We're going to bring it for you. We don't do that. We come in and we say, okay, we want to be field-driven. We want to ask the field, what do you want? So that's how we came up with the shelters you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's how we came up with the training program that Shalom is supporting. That's how we came up with medical care. I mean, what do you need? So, in Nigeria is a great example. There is not a strong prosthetics clinic anywhere in northern Nigeria. We operate the only one, because it just doesn't exist. So if you have Christians that are getting bombed or getting their legs, arms cut off by machetes, then they kind of need prosthetics. So so it's meeting the need. You know what I mean? So that's how we try to work, try to show up and really meet them. So we build the relationships with them. We sit down with them. We say, what's going on? I want to tell you a story, a perfect example of this in Iraq. So we were in Erbil, Iraq. One of our field leaders, this was a couple months ago, and he was sitting down with a local pastor, and he's like, how can we serve you? And the pastor was like, well, there's all these refugees. There are relatives. We want to help, but we don't really have any space for them. And our leader was like, okay, just keep talking to me. Keep looking around, see what you can find. We'll talk, Well, the guy called him the next day. He said, hey, I just got off the phone with this owner of a wedding hall, and he said business is really bad. Nobody's getting married right now because there's a war. And so there's
True love stops.
There's an empty hall, and it's got air conditioning, it's got heat, it's just a big room, but for X amount of dollars, he'll rent it to us on a month-by-month basis. And what was so cool, Jeff? When I was in Iraq last week, I got to go see this place, and it's bustling with relatives or refugees.
Wow.
With blanket walls. I mean, it's not comfortable because, it's literally just a big room with blanket walls, strings and blankets. And but the neat thing about it is that that's a great example of field-drivenness, because we didn't come up with this like, okay, let's find the closest
take a
wedding
wedding
hall
chapel.
because we're gonna like fix you guys up. No, it was like, okay, how can we help?
Yeah.
And all they needed, they came up with the idea on their own. They just needed the money. And we were able to deliver that, so it's
That's
awesome.
amazing. You mentioned, I know we've been talking a lot about Iraq and Syria, but at lunch today, your wife, Kimberly, even said that she had got to go to Nigeria, and you've been to Nigeria. Let's go shift the focus a little bit there and tell us, in Nigeria, you mentioned your medical care. That's something that we're supporting with Shalom. So give us an idea of what that looks like. And I mean, Habila that we just saw in the video. This was crazy. At lunch today, we were talking about showing this video tonight. He goes, I know Habila. We're like, okay, this is why you're here tonight.
Yeah, I actually met Habila, and that dude is cool. I mean, obviously, you can tell from the video.
Oh.
He's just solid. He's like so humble and just mellow. He's like, yeah, they shot my face off, but I just love him, you know? I was like, dude, you're so awesome. I mean, he's just really cool. So, yeah, I got to meet with him, and I met with girls who were kidnapped by Boko Haram. You heard of the Chibok girls just a couple months prior to that, because that wasn't the first time Boko Haram was kidnapping. That was just the first time it became publicly, on the big media scene. But my wife and I met with girls who were kidnapped, forced to marry Muslim men at knife point, and then they escaped. It's kind of an interesting story because the girls were... They were literally, I think they were kind of competition to his other wives, seriously, because they were like these young girls that he wanted to marry and stuff. So one of the wives helped him escape. She was like, hey, he's gone, so like if you just take off running that way, you could probably find help. And so they did. All three of them just took off. And, but obviously really tough situations. But we met with these amputation victims, amputees. Let me tell you one quick story, and then I know we're getting close to our time here, but there was a guy, his name was Israel, and Israel grew up in working in the market with his mother. His mother had a kerosene kiosk in the market, and he grew up in a Christian part of town, so this was a Christian market, but his mother told him something really profound. She's like, Israel, you got to be loving to everyone, like no matter who it is, Muslim, Christian, just love them. And so he was kind of just nice to everyone that came by. Well, one day a Muslim man came by carrying a box, and he literally said to him, he said, boy, watch my box while I go get some other stuff. And this was on Christmas Eve. The market was bustling. Lots of activity, last-minute Christmas shopping, and kerosene kiosk. Well, as you could probably predict, it was a bomb. And so the box blew up. Israel's leg is just gone. And he almost died, almost bled out on the street there. But here's the amazing thing. Just like Habila, he looks at me, Jeff, and he's like, I choose to forgive. I'm like, but your leg, and he's telling me how hard it is. It's like, it's humiliating. I have to get help to go to the bathroom and stuff. And, it's just, but he's like, but I choose to forgive him because Jesus forgave me.
That's got to be so, if it was me in your position being over there, I think I would be, like you said, just kind of looking at him going, how do they do that? I mean, I don't know that I've known that depth of forgiveness other than Christ to me and being the biggest of sinners and him pulling me in. But I mean, if the stories that y'all are seeing have to personally for you.
Yeah, it's inspirational.
I can see that being such a...
It is. You feel like a spiritual weakling sometimes meeting with these guys.
Oh, I'm watching Habila's video and I'm like...
Yeah, I have a hard time forgiving the dude who cut me off in traffic or whatever, and you're forgiving the guy who shot your face off. But it's just crazy. But I got to tell you this, man. We can learn from them, and that's what we need to do. We need to learn. We need to stand with our persecuted brothers and sisters. They're not some distant, nameless, faceless person. They're people just like us. They're normal, they struggle, they're just normal, but they are our brothers and our sisters, and we've got to stand with them. And, I don't know what kind of platform you have personally, but, even just on social media, just standing with them, just telling their stories, finding out more about them, it's huge. It makes a big difference. And so that's one of the best parts of my job is I literally stand with, I meet with the brothers and sisters and I say, hey, I want you to know that right now at Texas A&M University, I did this 2 weeks ago, there's this group called Breakaway, and these students, they are praying for you. They're giving to support you. And I asked the guy, I actually asked him, I was like, how does it make you feel knowing that Americans are praying for you and helping you? And he was like, it was awesome. He's like, it makes me so happy. He's like, it makes me happy to know that I'm not forgotten, that somebody over there cares enough about me to send you over here to tell me that, to stand with me. It's really remarkable.
Man.
Can I say something to the student here who might be thinking about what's God doing in my life?
Absolutely.
I just want to say, maybe God's calling you to serve. He is calling you to serve. Let me rephrase that. Maybe he's calling you to serve overseas as a missionary. And I just want to tell you, there's nothing better you could do with your life. I mean, seriously. And I don't want to be like racking and stacking, like, this vocation's better than that one. I'm not saying that. But if God is calling you, you've got to go. And you've got to be willing to say, to raise your hand and say, here am I, Lord. Send me. I am willing to go, and I'm ready to serve, whatever that looks like. The most effective missions leader that I know today, he began when he was a boy. I mean, he was literally in high school. He was just on fire for the Lord. He started preparing. He started studying missions. He started reading missionary biographies. He started evangelizing in his high school. And God was working through all that to equip him. So, man, you got to work on your character. Follow hard after Jesus. Be pure. Walk with him every day. And then you got to work on your competencies, develop and grow the way that he wants you to grow. And I'll tell you, I do believe, like in this case, this guy I'm talking about, now he is literally reaching hundreds of thousands of people around the world as an incredibly efficient and effective missions leader, because he's just answered that call. And I look at him, I'm like, that's cool, man. It makes me wish I'd started earlier. You know what I'm saying? But it's not too late. I mean, now's the time to just start and say, God, what are you going to do? How can I go? How can I stand with those who are suffering for you? And it begins right here, standing strong with them.
I love that. Well, that definitely, like what I was saying earlier with Shalom for us, part of what we're trying to message is, yes, for this project, it is financial giving that we can come around. It's something that we can actually do, is we can give to it. But it isn't just about money. I mean, we're not talking just about money. For me personally, like I've told Jordan over and over, like I've become so much more aware diving into this project about what's happening. Like I feel like I was ignorant before. Like I just feel like I just didn't know, because I would see it in my feed, but they're just like, okay, just blow past it. But now that I'm like looking at it, it just raises awareness, and for me to know what's happening to my brother and sister over there. Like it's awesome to be able to know how to pray for them and what we're doing. But I think we're doing we're doing what we can here by putting these goals together and putting it in front of everyone and going, hey, let's be the hands and feet of Jesus as much as we can. Even if we're not going over there. And it's something that we've also, I think, that we've really tried to message and make sure that we're saying is like, there's not, ISIS is not our enemy.
Nope.
Boko Haram is not our enemy. There's one enemy, and that is, and so as we look at that truth, we can step back and hopefully become more like people like Habila.
Yeah. He said I would like wrap my arms around him and love him.
Yeah, and just go. That's the kind of person. That's the kind of person that I want to be.
Yes.
And I hope that for us in here that say, we're Christians, we follow Christ. Yeah. Even if we're not put in the position of the persecution that these people are, that is our heart. That we love our brother and sister in the best way that we can.
Definitely.
Before, let's wrap up here. I know you guys have places to be, right? It's 10:15. You got to go out or something. But let me just tell you one more time. The goal of the Shalom Project, we are providing, as Breakaway, our Shalom Project, we're looking at 20 shelters for families, what you heard talked about. We're looking at medical care for 20 people, or 20 patients in Nigeria. Training and resources for 20 pastors in Syria, and 2,000 Bibles being sent to the Middle East through Elam. And so that's kind of what we put in front of you. We have said that those things cost $115,000, which a lot of us could not write that check. but together, we could do a lot. And so I actually, I hold the key to the new numbers of what Shalom, where we're at. So you guys interested in that? You want to hear where we're at? All right, people. Tonight when you came in, we were at 8 o'clock tonight. We were sitting at $100,934. That was at 8 o'clock. Yeah, come on.
Yeah, praise God.
The total that was given before Breakaway began at 9 o'clock in 1 hour, the total that was given by you awesome people was $14,545. So that puts us, we're sitting at $115,480 that's been given. Come on.
Praise God.
Isn't that crazy?
Dude. Yeah.
So crazy.
Wow.
I mean,
so we don't have to meet next week.
well, here's the deal. You're going, oh, so I don't need to give now? No. That's not the deal. Because we've said before, when we go over that goal, we can provide more shelter, more medical needs, and so we can do much more than what we put in front of you. And I mean, that's welcome to the Aggies. I mean, this is just
that's
what
awesome.
they do. Like,
you guys that's awesome.
But that's, I just think it's awesome. I think we said at the beginning, Ben, I remember standing on the stage and Ben said, let's blow past that goal.
Wow.
And we still have a week left. So we're not done. We have one more week of Shalom. That doesn't end just tonight. It's not just a breakaway moment that we give. But let me just tell you, you can give as you leave tonight. The tables will be open to give. There's a couple other things. As you give, if you give $20, you get a T-shirt. Wear that T-shirt. Promote Shalom. I like the white one better than the red. But
hey, I
that's
wore it
just
on the
me.
campus tour today, dude.
I mean, we got some red people in here that love the red shirt. But get a T-shirt for $20, and then tell people what we're doing. This is not just a breakaway thing. This is not just an Aggie thing. We are telling everyone that we can, go to breakawayministries.org, and when you click on the Shalom Project, there's a button that says donate. So you can tell parents and anybody. I mean, just go donate to this thing. It's awesome. You don't need to ask questions. Just do it. So we just wanted you guys to know that and just champion with us, give online. And again, can we just say thank you to Jason tonight and his family for coming.
Praise God, man.
Come on. Thanks. Man. We're really grateful for you, and thanks for making the trip.
Thank you.